On March 14, 2019, a woman named Catherine Brenner walked into the Fort East Martello Museum in Key West, Florida. She carried with her a letter. Her hands trembled as she approached the glass case containing Robert the doll. The letter was an apology. Catherine had visited the museum 6 months earlier, in September of 2018. She had laughed at Robert. She had mocked the warnings posted around his case. She had taken a photograph without asking permission. And now, she wrote in that letter, everything in her life had fallen apart. Her marriage had ended. Her daughter wouldn't speak to her. She had lost her job of 15 years. But those were just the beginning of her problems. Because Catherine Brenner had started seeing Robert in her dreams. And then, she had started seeing him when she was awake. Standing in corners. Watching her from windows. She wasn't the first. And she wouldn't be the last. Robert the doll was given to Robert Eugene Otto in 1906. The boy was 6 years old. The doll stood 3 feet tall, stuffed with wood wool, dressed in a white sailor suit that matched young Robert's own clothing. Its eyes were black buttons. Its face was painted cloth, frozen in an expression that seemed to shift depending on the angle of the light. Some say the doll was a gift from the Otto family's Bahamian servant, a woman skilled in voodoo and black magic, angry at her mistreatment by the family. Others claim it was simply purchased from a shop. But the origin doesn't matter as much as what happened next. Young Robert Eugene began talking to the doll. And neighbors claimed they heard the doll talking back. Not the voice of a child playing pretend. A different voice. Older. Crueler. When objects were thrown across rooms, when furniture was overturned, when the family heard footsteps running through empty hallways in the dead of night, Robert Eugene would always say the same thing. Robert did it. He meant the doll. The boy's parents would lock the doll in the attic. But servants refused to go up there. They said they heard giggling. They said they saw the doll move from window to window, peering down at passers-by. Children walking home from school would cross the street to avoid passing the Otto house, because they had seen Robert watching them. His head turning to follow their movement. And this was just the beginning of Robert's reign. The doll was only starting to understand its power. Robert Eugene Otto died in 1974. The house was sold. The new owners found Robert in the attic. Their 10-year-old daughter claimed the doll tried to kill her. She said it would attack her at night. They donated Robert to the Fort East Martello Museum in 1994, where he remains today, seated in a wooden chair behind glass. The museum staff installed warning plaques. They tell visitors they must ask Robert's permission before taking his photograph. They must speak to him respectfully. They must not mock him. And if you do take his photograph, if you do disrespect him, the museum claims you should write him a letter of apology. Because Robert remembers. The museum receives letters every week. Hundreds of them. Letters from people begging forgiveness. Letters describing accidents, illnesses, divorces, bankruptcies, deaths. All happening to people who laughed at Robert. Who called him just a doll. Who took photographs without asking. The letters are kept in boxes in the museum's back rooms. Boxes and boxes of them. The museum staff won't tell you exactly how many. But one former curator, speaking off the record, said there were over 3,000 letters received in just the last 5 years. 3,000 people whose lives fell apart after encountering Robert. And those are only the ones who believed enough to write. How many others dismissed their misfortunes as coincidence? How many never made the connection at all? The museum staff have their own stories too. Alarms that trigger when no one is near them. Security cameras that malfunction only near Robert's case. The sound of giggling on empty nights. One security guard quit after his shift in November 2017. He never gave an official reason. But he told his replacement, in confidence, that he had seen Robert stand up from his chair. He had watched the doll walk to the edge of the glass and press its cloth face against the barrier, staring at him with those dead button eyes. James and Patricia Hammond visited Key West for their anniversary in July 2016. They stopped at the museum. They thought Robert was quaint. Funny. James made jokes. He tapped on the glass despite the signs forbidding it. He told his wife it was all nonsense for tourists. He took 7 photographs without asking permission. Patricia felt uncomfortable. She said she wanted to leave. But James insisted on staying, mocking her superstition. That night, back in their hotel room, James woke at 3 in the morning. The hotel television had turned itself on. Static. White noise. And in that static, he said he could see a shape. Small. Child-sized. Wearing something white. He told himself he was dreaming. They flew home to Portland, Oregon the next day. 2 weeks later, their house caught fire. The fire inspector said it started in their bedroom. No electrical fault. No clear cause. The fire consumed everything James and Patricia owned. They moved into a rental property while insurance processed their claim. But the insurance company denied it. They found evidence of fraud, they said. James had never committed fraud. He fought the decision for months. Then Patricia got sick. Cancer. Stage 4. She had been healthy all her life. No family history. The doctors couldn't explain how it had progressed so rapidly without any prior symptoms. James lost his job while caring for her. Patricia died in February 2017. 7 months after they visited Robert. After the funeral, James drove to Key West. He walked into the museum. He stood before Robert's case and he apologized. He begged forgiveness. He was crying, the museum staff said. He left a letter. But apologies don't always work. James Hammond died in a car accident 1 week after his visit. His vehicle left the road in clear weather. No mechanical failure. No explanation. As if something had grabbed the wheel and pulled. But it's not just adults who feel Robert's reach. In October 2018, a couple brought their 8-year-old son, Michael, to see Robert. The boy was fascinated by creepy things, they said. He would love the haunted doll. But when Michael stood before the case, he went silent. His parents said his face went pale. He started backing away. He was whispering something. They had to lean close to hear it. He knows me, the boy said. He remembers me. Michael's parents laughed it off. Michael had never been to Key West before. How could Robert remember him? But Michael became increasingly distressed. He was crying now. Pulling at his mother's hand. Begging to leave. They left the museum. But Michael couldn't sleep that night. He said Robert was in the hotel room. Standing in the corner. Watching him. His parents saw nothing. They told Michael it was just his imagination. When they returned home to Atlanta, Michael's behavior changed. He stopped speaking at school. He would wake up screaming. He drew pictures. Always the same image. A small figure in white. With button eyes. And in every picture, the figure was getting closer. Michael's parents took him to therapists. The therapists suggested night terrors, anxiety, and overactive imagination. But then Michael's older sister, Emma, 16 years old, saw something. She was walking past Michael's bedroom at night. She glanced through the open door. And sitting on Michael's bed, she said, was a small figure. 3 feet tall. Wearing white. It turned to look at her. She screamed. Their parents came running. Nothing was there. But Emma refuses to go near Michael's room now. And Michael barely speaks anymore. Except to say, over and over, he's waiting. He's been waiting a long time. The museum curator, a woman named Linda Martinez, granted a rare interview in December 2019. She was asked about the letters. About whether she believed Robert was Truly cursed. Linda chose her words carefully. She said that belief was personal. But she also said something else. Something that doesn't appear in the official museum literature. She said that in her 12 years working with Robert, she had noticed a pattern. The people who write apology letters, who express genuine remorse, sometimes their misfortunes stop. Sometimes. But there are others, she said, who write letters and receive no reprieve. Their bad luck continues. Gets worse. She said she believes Robert chooses. He decides who to forgive and who to punish further. And his decisions, she said, are not always rational. Not always fair. Sometimes, she said, it seems like he enjoys it. Linda Martinez resigned from the museum in January 2020. She gave no official reason. But a staff member who worked with her said that Linda had started acting strangely in her final weeks. She would arrive at the museum early, before dawn, and leave late at night. She was always watching Robert's case. She was talking to herself. Or talking to him. On her last day, Linda was found in the room with Robert's case after hours. The door was locked from the inside. She was standing inches from the glass. Her hand pressed against it. She was crying. When security finally got the door open, Linda wouldn't explain what had happened. She simply gathered her belongings and left. She hasn't spoken publicly about Robert since. And when a reporter tried to contact her for a follow-up interview, Linda's family said she wasn't available. They said she was recovering. They wouldn't say from what. But her sister mentioned, almost as an afterthought, that Linda had started seeing things. Things that weren't there. Or things that shouldn't be there. Small things. Watching her. Robert the doll still sits in his glass case at the Fort East Martello Museum. He still wears his white sailor suit. His button eyes still stare out at visitors. And the letters still arrive. Every single week. But here's what the museum won't tell you. Here's what they've kept quiet. In the past year, 3 people who wrote apology letters to Robert have died under mysterious circumstances. The museum has no comment on this. They say it's coincidence. But the letters keep coming. And Robert keeps watching. And maybe, just maybe, Robert is still deciding who deserves forgiveness. And who deserves something much worse. If you've ever visited Robert, if you've ever taken his photograph without asking, you might want to consider writing that letter. Before he makes his decision about you.